We have to collaborate in order to make impact, but we also have to be at the table and set our boundaries to say, we're here, we're not going nowhere, and forget that separation of state stuff.
That's right.
They talked that stuff to me, and when they came to ask our folks to vote for them, I told them separation of church and state.
Oh, Lord.
But the true fact of the matter is you can't separate church and state, because we are the church.
That's right.
We're in government.
That's right.
We are the church. We're in business. And the only way that we truly affect policy, change in our communities, even people in leadership and the faces that we see on those levels, is if we understand what power we have. We should be effecting change on every level, economically for our people, and making sure that every door that we need to get into is open. And if it's not open, we need to kick that door open and create tables of our own so we can collaborate and make sure that we get the necessary resources that we need. Our kids, we deserve better schools. Our kids, we deserve better education, we deserve better jobs, and we deserve to have people in place to make sure that things like that happens. We need people in place, the right people in place with the right motives. Thank you.
So can any of us share some of the partnerships that we do have with local government that have supported local governments? How any of these efforts have shown any significant change in addressing some of the issues that we talked about, and just be real specific about some of the initiatives that you think are important that exist, or maybe you want to exist with local government to help mitigate some of the issues that we deal with.
So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, King, for the invitation. Some of the partnerships that we're working on in Trenton are very fruitful and very promising. First, I think it's important to dovetail a little bit on the last conversation that both local government and faith institutions, particularly black faith institutions, own the fact that the black church is the longest standing and strongest black institution in the country. We also hold more assets than any other black institution.
That's right.
And the oldest parcels of land in this country owned by black people are owned by black churches. And it's very important that we understand that. Secondly, black churches need to understand the power, to Pastor's point, Assemblyman's point, of collaboration. And what would our communities look like if we ever woke up and realized that if we collaborated, we have so much leverage, we can actually transform our community.
Yeah.
So there is an equity power within black institutions. Some of what we're looking at, particularly in Trenton, one of the things around housing, we're happy to be a partner. I see one of my good brothers from Trenton, from the Trenton Housing Authority, Darren Green, in the house, partnering with the Trenton Housing Authority on a Choice Neighborhood Initiative, and how the black church, the historic black church, our church is the oldest black church in the city, what our work alongside them can look like to the transformation of that community. The local government, one of the things I'm hoping they do is turn over a lot of the dilapidated housing that they own to our Community Development Corporation, so that we can rehab the housing and put folks returning from incarceration in those houses and hopefully turn them into homeowners. We've partnered with the city and the state to deal with gun violence in the city. Our street team on the ground and those kind of efforts have massively reduced gun violence in the city over time. The city and certain folks in the state have been partners around the black maternal health crisis. As we have dilapidated buildings, when I was sent to Trenton, we have a dilapidated building, and two issues were the major pressing issues in the city. One was gun violence, and the other was that there's nowhere for a black woman to give birth. And so how do we utilize the assets we have to be in service to the community not just for shouting hallelujah on Sunday
That's
morning.
right, that's right, that's right, that's right.
And so by leveraging those assets, we've been able to bring in many of the resources needed to put those facilities in service. And so as local faith communities partner with local government to solve real problems, we can actually do what ministry should look like, which is putting flesh on the word.
That's right.
I think,
Thank you. There are two basic elements that shape human character. One of those elements is education, and the other element is inspiration. The faith community is responsible for both of those areas, educating as well as inspiring people to fulfill the potential that is within their human soul. What the faith communities have done is they've worked with government officials in order to raise the consciousness of people so that they will understand that they are just not people who live in houses, but they're responsible for the society in which they live in. So one of the major components that the faith community has and continues to work with in terms of elected officials is educating people about their social responsibility, educating people about their civic responsibility, and educating people about their civic rights. These are the things that people really don't have a full understanding about. And as a result, they miss out on the resources that come as a result of what government can provide for them. The other component that I think is important for the faith community to have in terms of the relationship with government is to provide a moral and ethical conscience that not only the citizens have to have, but the elected officials have to have also. And sometimes the faith community has to be a reminder to the elected officials about what their responsibility is, not just to their constituents, but also their responsibility to God.
I think I serve as the co-director of Human Rights and Community Relations for the American Federation of Teachers. And when we are impacted by the choices of books that our students have, we reach out to not only our government, but to our faith leaders to say, hold on, you are the basis of education for our children, and how can you allow them not to read a book on Fannie Lou Hamer or on Rosa Parks? And so those are the influence of faith leaders to impact legislation or change is vast. And I think my brother down here, once we realize the power that we have,
right.
many things will change. And if you know, the right wing think they own Jesus.
Yeah.
They
My
own
Lord.
it. They claim it. And so as a community as a whole, Mayor, I think what we, particularly in black and brown communities, do, and we've done historically, there's been relationships with government officials. As an AME, our church was founded on the relationship of what our church did in the state of city of Philadelphia, but the state of Pennsylvania, in helping the governor on 2 to 3 issues. So I think it's something we do all the time, but we must begin to look at it in a new lens, from a faith lens. Y'all, everybody want to talk about what Jesus did.
Right.
He didn't sit in no church
That's what I just
No.
came outside.
preaching on Sunday only. He was outside in the streets.
That's right.
That's
And
it.
so we must be that voice to affect change and move politicians.
Can I?
Yes, sir, please.
Both are right on point with the educational piece. I think that that's so very, very important if we're going to move forward as a leadership in the faith-based initiatives. I work with Keen with their governmental affairs and community partnerships, and one of the things that we're seeing, and one of the things we've talked about, is about the whole thought of reparations. I think reparations are very important. Matter of fact, I'm signed to the bill. I'm one of the supporters of it. But I think we have to go past that. I think that we don't just need money thrown into our community, but we also need the educational component that comes along with it that says to our young ones, when we get it, we know what to do with it. Instead of that, those monies just filtering right through our fingers. Another point is that what we're doing on a state level is every bill that come out, the first thing that's on my mind is how do we shape this so it will impact kingdom, not church, but kingdom. In my mind, church is the four walls of brick and mortar. But when we talk about kingdom, we have to understand that we have to take it outside of the four walls. When our congregation, when they leave on Sundays, guess where they're going? Outside the four walls. So we got to begin to educate them in a way that says, whatever I do, I need to impact our faith-based community, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not for sure if everybody had that in their mind on the state level. And as faith leaders, we have to hold them responsible and accountable because they're looking for us to get them reelected. And if they're not accountable and responsible, we need to do the responsible thing. And but the educational component is very, very important in order for us to go to that next level. Collaboration is the key. It's the key. Thank you, man.
So I'm gonna take this a little deeper, and you guys, Regina brought up the idea of affecting legislation.
Yeah.
This whole question of the separation of church and state was already raised. And how do you kind of reconcile trying to affect legislation without superimposing your ideas or your beliefs on other people, right? And making sure legislation is good, because you have the far right, like Regina said, who think they own God, who believe that denying people specific things is something God would want. I do know that my good buddy in New York City, Mayor Adams, has got himself in trouble because he said that God wanted him to be the mayor.
Yeah.
Helped him be the mayor, and people took umbrage with that. That's because in their mind, they thought that he meant that he was supporting one religion over another. But I think in his mind, he knew that he was born outnumbered and surrounded. Because all of us, in our community were born outnumbered and surrounded. And he probably thought that as a child, his trajectory, the only way he could have became mayor is with some divine intervention involved in some way.
That's right. Yes.
Because he's in a place where we weren't supposed to be the mayor. Mm-hmm. And he had some dyslexia and some other things going on in his community. The same way people, our great-grandmothers, thought God had to be involved when Barack Obama became the president, especially when they grew up in the Jim Crow South. They said God has got to be present here.
Yeah.
When he put his hand on the Bible that Martin Luther King was arrested with,
My Lord.
that made them start shouting and hollering. So that's a whole nother perspective of why Mayor Adams would even invoke God's name in that same thing. But I don't think he was trying to infringe upon people's beliefs. But I do want us to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation about how do we affect legislative policy, without infringing or overstepping on what we believe is, other people's ideas and beliefs. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Once again, thank you, Mayor, and to sit here with these esteemed panelists. I jumped in so fast, with these, not talk loud. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
To sit here with these distinguished men and women of God and the mayor, it is truly an honor. The first thing I want to say is, in this work, I just so happen to have grown up in a household that respected individuals for who they were and not what they believed. My quote is, my religion is personal, but my mission is humanity. I believe once we start looking at through the lenses of really trying to help human beings, no matter what they believe, because I do believe that whatever I believe is not going to have you send me to a heaven or a hell. That is something that I have to deal with on my own. How I treat people, what I do with people, how I advocate for people. So I can work with the Muslim community, I can work with the Jewish community, I can work with the Christian community, because they are a community, and it's not my call, if I'm trying to help them, not to help them because you're a Christian or a Muslim, but to help them because you're a human being. A lot of us get caught up in our beliefs, which creates a barrier, because we believe, because we have certain standards in our belief, that we cannot help people. If someone is homeless and they are from the Muslim community, I can't walk away from them and say, well, go talk to Imam Sharif because I'm Reverend Roundtree. So we have to start getting in our minds and developing the narrative that we want to help the people, no matter what our title is, no matter what walk of faith we have, no matter what our religious title is, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we have to stop letting our titles and our religion get in the way of the work of helping humanity. And I'm going to close with this. There are two leaders that came forth that were able to bring people together. One was the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, who did the Million Man March, and the other was Martin Luther King on the March on Washington. How did they bring those people together? People collaborated. The Jewish community walked with Martin. It wasn't his friends that was running up to the front of the line. So we have to realize that if we're going to be effective, even as faith leaders, change, we have to come together. I think Amina Baraka says that people united will never be defeated. We have to
make that up.
Well, she didn't make it up.
Yeah.
Well, she said it. I'm giving her credit for it. So, she said it. Amina Baraka said the people united. We're so busy worried about who in front of the line instead of just getting in line when it's in the best interest of the people. That's it.
I think, Mayor, first of all, the 501c, all of that tax status stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let me stand there.
It's getting different.
So, first of all, I think we have to understand that the 501c3 is a tax issue.
Yes.
It is about the distribution and use of funds. Now, the church cannot use its church money to do politics. However, if they create a 501c3, C4, or another entity, might be named the same as the church, they can. And so that is just a fear tactic for those of us that are black and brown. The old adage is squeaky wheel gets the oil. And if you're not making noise, no one hears you.
That's right.
No one hears you. I had the luxury of being the Secretary of State, and when issues come to the governor, y'all, it's $1. And we have to make a decision with that $1 with all the issues that come forth. Don't let it snow. And you don't have enough ice and you got all them cracks. That then cut your budget. Because New Jersey is in a balanced budget. Ain't no extra money.
That's right.
And so if you have seniors talking about, I've lived out my life and I need this because I deserve this, and then you have children that are born crack addicts and they need the money.
That's right.
You have education because schools are crackling down and all of that. The ones that get the information are the ones that come before you and make their case. Does not make it right or wrong.
That's right.
But you are only one elected official.
That's right.
And the mayor got the whole city.
That's right.
And each ward is different. But there's only $1.
Right.
All of it is right. Children need to be born with the opportunity to succeed. Seniors need to live. But if it snow, 9/11, a crisis or something, it kicks into the budget. And so you must come forth.
Right.
And make your case known. You have to come to the elected officials.
That's right.
I have the fortune of working with Kane University, Kelly Drakeford, and the faith-based policy initiative.
Yes.
It's a new initiative. We will teach you along with Ed Laporte and New Jersey State faith-based initiative that was under the Secretary of State. Okay,
Oh, yes.
y'all get it. So we will teach you how to collaborate with each other in order to present stuff to Rem Atkins. How to come together, not fighting each other.
That's right.
Everybody ain't got to feed everybody. Somebody got to clothe them.
That's
Somebody
right.
got to house them.
That's right.
Somebody got to teach them. So there's different areas, but the Kane University Faith-Based Policy Initiative is created so that we can hear the voices of faith leaders and make collective decisions, but help you lobby, help you apply for various dollars and the like.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Policies, when they're voted on, impact the lives of people. And before those policies are put forward before the public, people need to know what people think about those policies and how they're going to impact their lives. My view is that these policies need to be discussed before the public, and the public needs to have some voice in regard to what they think those policies mean to them. Leaders within the faith community have a responsibility to discuss these policies with elected officials and let them know what their constituents think and what they also are concerned about with regard to how this policy is going to affect not only their life, but the life of their children and their children's children, because some policies will affect generations of people. And we need to understand that when we put forward policies that ultimately will oppress the people, we need to make sure that those policies are removed from the legislator, and at the same time, we need to make sure that whoever put those policies in place needs to be questioned as to whether or not they're representing the people. These are the things that I believe the faith community has a responsibility to ensure, and have to have a responsibility to communicate with the elected officials to ensure that the policies that are put forward do not negatively impact the constituents and their families.
Thank you. So this issue of this separation of church and state, for black religious folks, it's a misnomer.
Yes.
Right.
One, it's kind of a fear tactic because people don't really know what it means.
Right.
Exactly.
So there's no reason why the church can't be involved in advocacy.
That's right.
As you can all see with my dear sister, the Secretary of State Regina Thomas, and myself and many others, Mayor Baraka certainly can testify to this. African Methodism came about
Yes.
because the state and the government were creating hell for black people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the only way we survived that hell was through our faith. And so my wife and I, years ago, had this crazy idea to really get at this issue of church and state by founding a public policy organization called Salvation and Social Justice. Because black folks, there's no separation between the social, the spiritual, and the physical. Because we've been living in hell on earth due to wicked public policy. Slavery was a state and federal sanctioned institution.
Come on.
And it was our faith that drove us to fight that wickedness in order to break it
Yes.
down. For black people, there's no difference between, and I mean, when we take on overtly white oppressive theologies, we move away from where we came from. But for us, in essence, there's no difference between salvation, deliverance, and liberation.
Yes.
And so it's critical that we understand that when black folks, when we're doing right by our religion, when we're true to the God that set us free, we are religiously obligated
That's right.
to fight for the liberation of all people,
Come on.
all oppressed people, regardless of what they believe, how they live, who they love. Our work is to set people free. That's what got us free. Thank you.
All right now.
I'm so happy to work with the King Faith-Based Initiative because it's creating a synergistic bridge between faith leaders and government to impact policy. On a state level, what I can tell you is every day of my life, I'm meeting with lobbyists. I'm meeting with gun lobbyists who on one side will tell me it's godly for us to have guns and use them the way we want.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, we hear something totally different. And then when we side otherwise, first thing they say is, well, you know, as a pastor, you should do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Yes.
Honestly, from a state level and from a perspective of a person who's voting for bills, let me tell you how you really impact policy. One, we need numbers. We need numbers. It's very interesting, but when I was mayor of my town, all we would have is pastors come to me and tell me, can you give me a building? Right.
Yeah.
I know that.
And then the paperwork wasn't right, so we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then when we ask you to support us, a lot of times they don't come out because they're not a part of the platform. So we got to get to the place where we're not competing, but we're collaborating. And we're providing the numbers that we need to be behind the people that's going to make the right impact. The second thing is that we don't realize how much power we have when we actually collaborate and create our own community. When we have our business leaders, when we have our nonprofit leaders all come together in one room and begin to talk about how we take our dollars and support those individuals who are going to make an impact not only for our people, it's for all people. I love those dynamics. All people, this person. Listen, it's for all people, but right now we got a fire. And we need to impact our area. So why can't we as faith-based leaders come together and create a pact that will lobby for faith-based initiatives just like they do on their side?
Come on.
Because up until this point, we don't have that. We have singularized individuals who will say, I support this because of X, Y, and Z. But the true fact of the matter is the 120 people in the legislature, they have individuals in their ear who are powered by PACs, who are powered by those entities, which causes individuals to think and to say certain things a certain way. So why can't faith-based African American, whoever want to join, it's wonderful, it's great, but we need our own PAC so that we can begin to change the narrative down at the State House. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Last question, I'm opening it up for the audience. Just want to, ask you what are some strategies around communication that local governments can take and making sure that they have a relationship with their faith-based community locally, or state government can take to make sure that there is a pipeline or a direct line of communication between the faith-based community and government.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe when I opened, I stated that developing relationship with your leaders is key. I think all of us have actually stated the same thing regarding a relationship with the church and government. What's important is that whoever the individual is that is leading that charge to go to government, to have that conversation, also have to go with a purpose and a plan. Every leader is not a good organizer. That does not take away from them being a good leader. It's just that some leaders have people to organize different things. When it comes to faith, it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive because you're dealing with various personalities. You're different with different types of leadership. You have people with different beliefs. So in order for this pipeline to be successful, the person that is going to lead that, to bring government and faith together in that municipality, and we've had leaders all over the state. Consistency, perseverance, bringing people together that are going to use their voice. My colleagues have spoke about being at the table. You can't go to the table and negotiate for you. You have to go to the table and negotiate for the body. And a lot of people go to the table and it becomes about them and what can they get once they've developed a relationship, and forget that it's about the people that we sent you to represent. And that's big in faith. And that's why faith is not respected at the table, because it doesn't, it does not, I should say, emulate what we sent you to do, what the congregation sent you to do. But did you tell your congregation there's a council meeting and there's a building being built in your neighborhood, and you might want to say something about it because you as the leader did not identify someone in the community that could communicate with government out of your own personal house of worship. So it is key that whoever goes is going to it's 5 minutes, is going to create that pipeline. Let me just stop right there. Here you go.
Anybody else?
I'll chime in a little bit. Just to kind of add on to that, I think it's important for local and state government to partner with faith communities and not lord over them. So what do I mean by that? It's critically important at this day and time. You know, black communities in particular are tired of white savior syndrome.
My Lord.
And we're tired of folks coming into our community telling us what we need.
That's it.
I wanna give a shout out to the mayor, because there's a model in Newark.
Yep.
Which is really the model.
Trying to get me in trouble up here.
No, but in all seriousness, right? When you're thinking about the issue of public safety, we know there's a lot of different, varying opinions. But what does he do? He empowers the development of a community-led organization in order to come on the ground to deal with public safety, which is a real partner to local government. One doesn't lord over the other, they're partners. And so I just stress local government to do the work, particularly with black faith communities, with black local community-led organizations. Do the work of helping to build folks up. Because you did it with Catholic Charity.
That's right. Sure enough.
You did it with white entities and with white faith entities.
Talk, sir.
You poured in the technical assistance, the resources 50, 60 years ago, into which they are phenomenal giants now.
Right.
Do the same thing with black folks.
That's right.
That's what justice looks like.
That's right.
We're gonna open up on that note, we're gonna open up the floor for a couple of questions. We don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna try to get as many hands as we can before they throw us out of here.
Greetings, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Beto. My first question, well, first of all, thank you for this. And then second, is there an interfaith master plan? And my second question is, there in faith, you may have been called to preach and guide the sheep in the congregation. But how do you become well-versed in moving legislation and really being pulled in and mentored so that you can navigate that change? Because while you are all experts in this craft, I want to be able to empower others.
I think
Yes.
I'm gonna answer that. I was called to the ministry probably 30 days after I became Secretary of State. I wasn't running from God. I wasn't looking for Him, nothing. And he has not changed what I do. Yes, I'm an ordained minister, doctorate degree and all of that, but I do social justice ministry. I'm not called to sit at a pulpit and preach every Sunday. I did that for a little bit. I am now the executive pastor, and my role is to make sure that the church is very connected to what goes on in government. I follow the White House initiative on faith-based. I don't see none of y'all on these calls.
Come on, see.
They be talking about where the money is. And I think that if we work, Kelly Draper stand up, if y'all find Kelly Draper
That's right
after
there.
this, her faith-based initiative will help you do that.
That's right.
Find the money, know where it is, and collaborate.
That's right.
So that we can have a model like Newark.
Yes.
I mean, I'll get you in trouble.
Those evangelicals.
That's right.
Go ahead. Those evangelicals.
I think the strategy is there, and I think Dr. Vito, I think you hit the right question. And I think the strategy is all by yourself. You don't have the resource, the connections, or the money to do it by yourself. So what you do, the strategy is for you to get connected with a Keene University who have the money, the resource, and the connections, and be able to use all those resources. I'm a part of that initiative, and I'm telling you now that it's a great initiative, and it's bringing people who have operated individually into a new level of collaboration to be able to make impact in their sphere of influence. The stuff that the mayor's doing in Newark, we're gonna get him in trouble. But what he's doing in Newark and what Keene is doing in Union County is allowing the barriers to come down so that faith-based leaders such as ourselves can make an impact by collaboration.
Man, one more, I'm wrapping it up. I gotta wrap up. Go ahead.
So I appreciate you all being here today. I had a question in reference to forecasting. I think a lot of times when we have initiatives that are being brought to our community, the strength is us attacking those issues. But what I don't see is more so the power aspect, which is how can we start forecasting what those issues are prior to them becoming issues, and putting things in place and guardrails in place to help our communities be successful, whether it's at the state level, local level, county level, but I just want to hear a little bit more about that.
I always tell people, if you see a Starbucks
That's right.
come into your neighborhood back to change.
That's right.
Because Starbucks Starbucks did their homework.
That's right.
So they about to tear your grandmama house down.
Too late, yes.
Because it don't look like
That's right.
Starbucks.
That's right.
I'm just using that. But
right.
they do. Starbucks, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, New Mall, they do their homework. We do our homework. When a liquor store and drug dealers hang out, we know the neighborhood gone to hell.
That's right.
Right.
So we immediately ought to change. But what we do is complain to the mayor who didn't cause the problem.
Right.
Them is your.
That's right.
That's
Your
Pookie
people.
them. You know who out there?
You know.
Tell old Pookie them. So I think it's a two-way street. We know the problems. But for some reason, we want to bitch about the problems when it's election time.
Yes.
And don't do nothing in between
Talk,
time.
sis.
If I picked
That
up,
part. Love her.
if I picked up, I used to work for Marion Barry. People would call him on his cell phone and say, my grandson is out on the street and I can't get him in. Well, they proactive. You know what he would do? He'd call one of his boys, go get him and bring him to my office. He created the mayor's youth leadership that said that every child between the ages of 14 and 18 will have a job in the city of Washington, D.C. So that was proactive. If you go and sit with these leaders, if you go sit with Atkins, you go sit with all the mayors, call Carsey, he in Atlantic City. They can help you. Don't wait till it get out of hand.
Right.
Don't wait till it get out of hand. But I'm here to tell you, if you see a Starbucks, tell your grandmama to find a place to move, because she got to go. She got to go. Her house is not looking like Starbucks.
I know I said he was the last one. I'll make you the last.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for speaking today. I'm Austin. I pretty much do everything Edwards down in Trenton. All right. But the question I specifically had, if I could build upon that point, right? Can we talk more about youth engagement?
There it is.
Right?
Right.
Because I think it's a common challenge with both the church and also in the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
of making sure that youth are a part of this conversation. So
Yeah.
what can we do with both the government and our churches, whether it's policy, things like Vote 16, or other, great initiatives on the ground, making sure youth are engaged and a part of this conversation, both the church and in the government.
That's good.
I hear you.
Go ahead.
There are two major things in regard to that subject. One
Yes, sir.
is entrepreneurship and the whole idea of creating business people within our youth population. Our community needs businesses, and our community needs entrepreneurship coming out of the next generation of people. If we expect to grow our community, we're going to need the kind of businesses that ultimately have that community thrive. We need to create educational systems that ultimately teaches them how to not only start a business, but also to maintain a business. These are the important elements that are going to improve the quality of life, not only in the community, but as well as generations to come.
Yeah.
So,
Very good question. I think that there's initiatives that are out there, and I think that we just don't know about them. So the question becomes, how do we disseminate that information? Like King University, under the auspicious Kelly Drake and Dr. Jeffries, they're putting together a mentorship program for young people, young men, and bringing them along the way so that they have some type of route into a university, and as well as entrepreneurship. And a lot of people don't know that. And then on the state level, we provide grants for individuals who actually want to start businesses. And you listen, if you got 2 jobs, you can quit one and go full-time on your business, and there's a grant out there that the state will fund you. But people don't know about it.
Right.
So I think the question becomes, how do we as faith leaders disseminate that information?
Right.
And that's the way we cause that impact for our young people, because everybody should have a succession plan.
Right. I would just adding on that point, the fastest growing businesses in the country, small businesses in this country, are led by African American women, right? Almost a quarter of the small businesses in the state of New Jersey are Latino-based businesses, which means that the businesses are in our communities already, right? So our job then, as was mentioned, is to make sure that we provide opportunity and resource so those businesses can sustain themselves, can expand and grow, and be able to hire other people in our community. And I think the faith institutions should be about, a lot of times, I know the conversation was about faith, and we think we're going to be talking about God, and we are. But the faith institutions are also institutions in and of themselves.
That's right.
That should be engaged in the upliftment of our community economically, socially, politically,
right.
all of those things. So I think that's, hopefully we got that out of this. There's an opportunity for us to use these institutions for that matter. James Baldwin said most people found the cross through the Bible.
Wow.
But black people found the Bible through the cross.
Yeah,
Meaning that we found God because of our situation.
that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right?
right.
That when we were in the dungeon, we were saying, God, please help me.
That's right.
That's right.
And when Nat Turner showed up, we said, thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
Exactly.
Right?
Lord,
No,
have
that's real.
That's real.
Yeah,
That's real. So we found
yeah.
the Bible through the cross.
Yeah.
And I think the way we administer in our institutions, we should remember that.
That's
Right.
right.
Absolutely.
That the reason that we're even here
That's
is
right.
because of our condition. And so if we found that out because of our condition, then we should be creating policy and using our institutions as an opportunity to change those
right.
conditions.
Conditions.
Because God showed up for us
Help our people.
to help us, so we have to show up for God by helping
right.
our people, right? That's really what this is about. So I don't want people to, I know there's people here with cameras and videos, and we're gonna be talking about we want, God to superimpose God on politics. But I think what was laid out here today is very clear and succinct, that we're just trying to save people's
That's
lives.
all. That's all.
And They just think that saving people's souls is also a part of saving their lives.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody that came out today. I know these folks are going to mingle around, so hopefully if you have other questions, you can talk to them as well. Thank you, and God bless you. God bless you.